Welcome to the Mom Conference, helping you be the mom you want to be. A huge thanks to our sponsors who made it possible for everyone to watch for free. Make sure that you guys give them a lot of love. Welcome to the Mom Conference. I'm Desi, co-host of the Mom Conference. I'm here with April Perry and Eric from Learn to Become. And really quick, I'm going to get into their bio, and then we will get right into life architecture and what that means for families and couples. April Perry and her husband Eric are the creators of LearnDoBecome.com, an online community focused on strengthening families and architecting lives of excellence. April is also one of the co-directors of Power of Moms, and she and Eric live in Southern California with their 4 children and their dog Sunny. Teaching family-centered productivity is April's key passion, as she loves helping others to put their families first, move forward on their goals, and take a daily nap. I love it, April. I love the daily nap. I am so excited to have you two on. It's so fun to have a husband and wife. I don't think we have one other couple on the Mom Conference this year. And so this is a really fun thing to see both of your perspectives as we talk about life architecture today and what that looks like for couples and for families.
Yeah, well, and Richard and Linda Iyer are on the Mom Conference. We were actually looking at the homepage and we thought, you know what, we're so glad we've been able to learn from them over the years. And we're kind of representing the people who are going through it currently. So they've successfully raised the family and they're doing things beautifully.
Jury's still out on us.
Jury's still out. We're trying.
But we're excited to be with you at the Mom Conference this year.
We didn't think you guys were doing a phenomenal job. And you are right, the Iyers are on. We brought them back from popular demand from last year because we loved their talk so much. So you're right. You guys are in the thick of it, and we'd love to hear your experience on life architecture. So really quick, you guys run the website Learn, Do, Become. Can you share what that is and what your goal is with online community you're building?
Yeah, well, the whole goal is to help strengthen families, and our tagline is to architect a life of excellence. So essentially, Eric and I sat down and we identified everything that we really wanted to do better, and then we created a website to help us to do it. So Learn to Become, it's talking about life architecture, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Productivity, that's kind of my specialty, something that I love teaching and talking about. It helps reduce stress. We talk about health as well. We all need to have healthy families if we're going to grow and be able to do things well. And then family and spirituality. So we talk about really specific things we can do in a family context. And then how do we take a principle-based approach to help everybody to grow spiritually? So this has been something that's like our dream come true, to get to work on this, grow it together. We have had so many ups and downs over the last year, few years as we learned to work together, but we feel like we're finally getting there, and we're learning which things are working, and we're learning from people who've already gone ahead of us, and just sharing the journey and helping others to be able to hopefully improve and come along with us.
Right, and Learn to Become is actually a non-denominational, principle-based site, so it's for everybody. Anybody who's looking to strengthen their family or really to develop a life or architect a life of excellence. And we really have been focusing on these 5 key areas. We actually created them in a certain order, thinking we had the order right, but the first kind of resource we kind of came out with was a program April developed around productivity and organization. And it's kind of interesting, so we'll talk about life architecture today, but we actually may have put that in the wrong right order, if you will, because April's process is to help people figure out how to do the how to do the things that need to get done every day, to kind of streamline and optimize what we do to keep our lives and our families going.
Life's crazy.
Because life is crazy. And then we realized, wait, that's what, if we want to help people think about the bigger picture, the why in their lives, what they want to do in life, they need to get all this other stuff out of the way first. So kind of actually started with that second area first, going back then to life architecture and figuring out what and why we want to do it. And then once we know what we want to do, then the how, you already have that ability that you've learned. So
well, and one thing I just have to add is that when we say Learn to Become is for everybody, I think everybody can feel welcome there, of course, but it's kind of for a really specific group of people who want to learn and grow and develop. And that's really what the Mom Conference is all about. I mean, no mom takes time out of her schedule to sit down or run around and listen while she's running to a conference to improve, right? Yeah, like this is a really specific group. So we're just so grateful to get to be here, and I'm grateful actually to get to participate as one of the interviewers of the Mom Conference, running Power Moms as well. So it's just a really fun time. I'm grateful to bring Eric, come in here with all these moms.
Well, just the last thing I'll say on that is just it is. Everyone who's watching this right now, and taking part in the Mom Conference, it's because you're deliberate, you're intentional, you're purposeful in what you want to do in your life for your family. And so I love the fact that you're here watching these different presentations, trying to figure out how do we, and that's kind of the purpose of the name as well as the site that we created, Learn, Do, Become, because we all need to learn things. As we learn and understand things, we put them into practice. I always say to learn and to not do is not to have known, right? To know something and not to do it, it doesn't mean you really knew it, but if you learn something, you want to apply it. And then as you consistently apply some of the things, for example, you'll learn here through the Mom Conference, as you consistently do those things, you will literally become the person, the mother, the woman that you want to be. So we're just excited to be able to be part of the conference here this year.
I'm so excited. It's so fun, April, to have you on that side of it. It's so fun to be interviewing you.
It's a little strange.
I'm sure it's a little different.
That's why he's holding my hand to help me through it.
I know, that's so fun. I love what you guys said about the productivity part. We're getting everything on your to-do list and learning how to get that done. But I think the bigger picture is so important to even know what to put on that to-do list so you have a bigger picture of what you want to become. So tell us, what is life architecture and why is it important for moms?
All right, well, Eric will explain kind of what it is, and then I'll share a little bit more about why it's important for moms.
You told me you were going to introduce this part. So I know life architecture has always been a passion of mine since I was probably a teenager. Just this idea, and April kind of describes me as kind of being a little quirky, where I see things and I wonder kind of what could be rather than what is. I guess I'm kind of thinking outside the box or the traditional norms, and I don't know if that's okay or if that's not normal or something.
You always have follow-up questions for everything.
Right. It's like, well, what else could this be? What else could we do? I don't know. It is sometimes.
Unless you're the one answering the question.
Right. It's a mixed bag. But, since a teenager, I always thought, well, what do you want your life to be? And I think it's, great people throughout the ages have kind of looked at what they wanted their life to be and figured out, okay, well, how do I get there then, right? How do I kind of envision and architect the life I want? And the analogy I use is that none of us would actually move into a home that hadn't been built to specific designs and engineering and architecture that had been tested. We wouldn't buy a car that had been safety and engineering tested as well. We wouldn't even buy clothing that hadn't been sewn to a pattern or eat a meal that hadn't been, cooked to a recipe per se. But yet how many of us, day after day, week after week, live our lives in a way that we haven't really taken much thought to figure out what is the game plan, the longer term game plan, the architecture we want to build our lives to. And so, I've been thinking a lot about this for the past probably 10 years or more formally, starting to kind of sketch out some of my ideas and different things I would do and that we've started to do.
Well, that you've helped other people already implement. He's already doing this.
I have a lot of friends and people I've come across over the years. And so I've shared a lot of these principles
There's no
with their
small
ideas.
talk with Eric.
Well, there is. But I always love talking to people about, so what are you about? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? And it's always fun because all people, I think, have those kind of the strings inside of them that resonate with there's something larger, a greater purpose, a ministry, a mission, a purpose that I'm meant to do, that I'm uniquely qualified to do, or something I want to leave or kind of share with people in my life. And I think far too often we spend too much time in the minutia, in the brush fire of everyday life, and don't take enough time to create that margin to step back and say, okay, what do I want my life to be? And even if it's just a half an hour a day or in some small way we invest to get to that outcome. So that's kind of the general concept of what life architecture is or would consist of.
Yeah, and so I kind of jumped ahead to question 3 and now I'll go back to question 2 because I really wanted him to explain a little bit more about what life architecture is before I talk about why moms need it. Because of course it's important when you're structuring your life and your career and when you're thinking about starting a family and things like that. But I think what happened to me as a mom is I jumped into becoming a mother and having my baby Leah. She's my first one. And I found that I didn't have the normal way to know I was accomplishing something. I wasn't getting a paycheck. I wasn't getting grades. There was no one there to give me a sticker until I did a good job. I mean, that was there.
Yeah.
And so what happened is I would get out my planner and all my tools that I'd been used to using for school and work and everything, and I would just start putting things on my list in order to be productive. I wanted to be doing something. So I didn't really think carefully about what I was doing. I just knew I needed to be moving and thinking and reading or doing something. And so I feel like what happened is I started just getting a little bit addicted to productivity, just to checking things off and having some sense of order and completion at the end of the day. And I know I'm not alone. I know a lot of moms are just like, I just need to feel like I did something that stuck. Because everything has to be
because everything
redone.
You do gets undone. You clean the house and then 2 minutes later it's undone, or they have another messy diaper. It just gets undone.
Yeah. And and you're still in the diaper stage too, right?
Yes.
You still got these little ones. And so and it felt like that would never end. It was just like, oh, I'm just always doing it over and over. But I found that as Eric would talk with me and help me, I'd be kind of having a meltdown at the end of the day or whatever, often, and we would actually start discussing, well, April, what do you want for your life? What would you like to be doing? What do you want your legacy to be? What is it that you feel like you're called to do? I mean, we actually had a ton of these conversations, and he wasn't just saying, oh, well, go join some club, or maybe go hang out at the gym more, or maybe just kind of go do something. Not that clubs or gyms are wrong, but he wasn't trying to help me be busy. He was trying to help me to actually get where I wanted to go. And I feel like not enough people are asking mothers, where do you want to go? What do you want for your life? And when you can actually stop and realize that answering that question doesn't mean you don't love your family, doesn't mean that motherhood isn't enough. It just means that in the process of motherhood, you could actually be moving forward on some pretty awesome goals, because we're going to have a long time without kids in our home. And that needs to start being planned for right now.
Right, and I think that brings purpose to the everyday minutia that you're talking about, those everyday tasks that we do. They look different when you have a bigger goal in mind. It doesn't feel like just checking off or going through the routine. You're building something greater.
Yes, and just one thing I'll add. So Lucretia Mott is one of my all-time heroes. She was actually the heart of women being able to vote. You hear about Susan B. Anthony all the time, but Lucretia Mott was actually like the heart of the whole thing. And as she was taking care of children and as she was taking care of her family, she would actually be leaning over books and be reading and studying about the law, about policy, while she was caring for her children. And I love that image of a woman who had such a desire to make the world better, that as she's caring for her family, she's making her mind work.
Well, she actually disseminated a lot of the things that she read, researched, understood, or thought about in letters, right? She would write letters.
Patty Stanton did more of that.
Right, but the two of them were actually more behind the scenes with their families. They couldn't be out in the public eye, but they could be making their contribution. Even in that stage of their life, they were surrounded by small children. And I think we're going to talk about this probably more throughout the call here, the discussion. But every person, every mother is in a different season of their life, right? And even in these ones that are chaotic and busy and small children and lots of needs, there are still small and simple things that you can do to make sure that you feel that sense of purpose and not just feel like you got to fill your day with things to be busy. Because I think anyone can be busy. It's a question of whether you can actually do fewer things and be more purposeful and get more of the results that you want.
Yeah, and I thought I wasn't allowed to have bigger goals. I don't know what it was, but I felt like no one had come to me.
Why do you think you felt that way?
And bequeathed upon me this, I don't know, I felt like
I'm asking that because I wonder if more moms out there actually when you become a mother, you become kind of self-sacrificing and taking care of the needs of others.
Yeah.
Do you feel like if you do something for yourself or you invest,
I felt like it was taking away from my family.
From what you would do to serve.
And I wasn't really a person anymore. And I have a whole post I'd written called Mommy is a Person. Like when I finally learned I was able to like take a shower and eat. Stuff like that.
Those luxuries.
You love your children so much and you want to give and you naturally have these maternal instincts to take care of them. But I think what happens is you start having it be a child-centered life instead of a family-centered life. And so Learn to Become is about family-centered, and Eric helps me to be able to use my talents and skills, and I help him use his, and we help our kids. And the whole point is that we want everyone to thrive, not just one person in the family, which if one person in the family is thriving, they're really not thriving because you need a whole family around you.
Well, and one thing I will say, just the caveat to that, though, there may be women and mothers on this call who are doing this by themselves, or single mothers who may not have a spouse or a significant other or even much family support around. And we're going to talk about some concepts like life architecture or like this butterfly project. I'm just here to reaffirm that anyone can do this. It might be a little bit more challenging if you don't have this full kind of portfolio of support, but the principles, the concepts we're going to talk about can be done by anyone. I was raised by a wonderful mother who, for all intents and purposes, did most of it by herself. My dad was still part of the picture, but it just had some different challenges. And so my mom was just an amazing trooper. She did so many things for the 6 children that she had. So let me just make sure I'm giving the support and the encouragement to anyone out there who might be doing this with less than the full portfolio of support. You can do this. You absolutely can do these things.
I love that. If you have the intention and the desire that you can make these principles work for you, whatever life situation that you're in. So tell us a little bit more about what does life architecture consist of?
Oh, you just opened the floodgates. This is a dangerous question.
I told him to go through them, but kind of briefly because we don't want to overwhelm
No,
anybody.
we'll just
but-
talk. I'll just talk briefly about, as I was thinking about it and trying to isolate it down into a few different components, I really am going to kind of outline a program we'll offer later on at Learn to Become into about 12 components, 12 simple modules, and each of them kind of like starts in one place and builds on each other to get to a point where we're actually seeing the whole picture. So we're going to start with kind of the bigger picture and then work our way back to kind of the month-to-month and the day-to-day tactical type stuff. So I'll just briefly go through kind of roughly what the 12 modules would consist of, and we'll talk maybe about a couple of them in more detail. But, the first place is to kind of start out understanding exactly what it is we value. What is it we really care about? I think it's one of the hardest questions to answer. People say, what do you value? Well,
right. It seems so
family,
vague to pull those out.
integrity, truth, it's just a very, intangible kind of a conversation. And I don't know if it really even gets our arms around what we do value. So one of the first things we talk about is developing a personal hall of fame, identifying the people that we most admire in our lives and figure out, we'll talk about it in just a second, how we extract from the people we admire what it is we truly value. So we develop a personal hall of fame. Then the next module would be defining what legacy we want to leave and how our posterity will be shaped by that legacy. Like you're really thinking out 2 to 3 to 4 generations. After you've left this life, what is it that you're remembered for? What kind of impact have you left? The third module would kind of focus on really then articulating those core values, maybe even creating your own personal document, a mission statement, or something that kind of defines who and what you are. I also think a fourth module is assembling almost a binder or a place where you can go to look at the foundational personal documents from your life. And these are the types of documents. They could be emails, notes, certificates, just things that you've done or been or experienced, letters or notes from people that have kind of highlighted some of the things that you've actually done that has meant something deep to them. And I think if you can flip through that document, that portfolio periodically, it just reminds you and guides you in your life. It kind of keeps you moored to those foundations that you really do value.
And what a gift to your posterity.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you pass away, what a great keepsake, right?
Well, he has a letter from me in his binder that I wrote, and I wasn't writing it for the purpose of him saving it as a document, in his binder, but it meant a lot to me to think, oh wow, my appreciation for him for this, this specific experience meant enough that he wanted to save that and keep it.
Or maybe even some perspectives that she could maybe see in me that I couldn't see in myself right then. And so when you look back on that, you realize, no, that is right. That is something I can do or can grow into. So what those documents are, I have a whole bunch of ideas and just things to kind of jog people's memory or ideas to figure out what they would put in to personalize it. The next one is one of my favorites. It's envisioning a 50-year plan that sets out kind of desired milestones of 5-year intervals.
And we're going to dive more into that.
We'll dive more into the Hall of Fame and the 50-year plan. It sounds crazy, and I am a little crazy, but it's so powerful because you're looking out, right? You're looking into 3 generations. You can talk about your grandkids there. Then you kind of move down. We're going to kind of move now into the more midterm. You're going to articulate 5-year goal statements. Not like goals exactly, but goal statements. Just this idea or concept you want to work toward. But then those come along with a 3-month kind of project plan to move toward those, right? And you're going to work in little 3-month increments toward that 5-year goal statement. And what you're going to find is you're going to get there a lot faster than 5 years because you have focus, you have intensity. So that's kind of fun to see happen. Another module is kind of this idea of selecting a personal board of directors, which I love. Finding a few individuals that you admire, respect, look up to, who can become kind of your personal advisors or mentors. And those will shift, right? Your board of directors, just like any corporation, will shift over time as the needs of your life or the stage of life you're in shifts, and you need to learn from other or different people. So it's kind of fun to figure that out. And then the last 5 modules are things that really kind of focus on some of the stuff that April is really, really good at, and I've learned a lot from her. It's this idea about understanding habits and routines and learning to create the most optimal ones. So putting routines and systems in place, learning to use current projects and context-based choice lists, kind of instead of to-do lists, figuring out how we run our lives from month to month and week to week. The next module is talking about building Sunday or Saturday for sessions for reflection and planning. Even if we just set aside 20 to 30 minutes on one of those 2 days, it gives you that perspective on, okay, what am I going to do this week with my life that eventually contributes to this 50-year plan or to this legacy I want to leave? And then creating the habit of using a weekly review to process, plan, and take action in our lives. And then the last module is this idea of evaluating key decision-making criteria in our lives, how we use our time and our energy and our resources, and just using a very simple matrix when like some of the bigger decisions come along from time to time. What's the decision-making criteria that we use to make the right decision in those cases? So anyway, that's just kind of a nutshell, kind of probably more than you wanted to hear. But
we'll dive into a couple of them.
We'll go into a couple, but just the idea of kind of that whole set of resources allows a person to architect a life they want to then live to.
And I love that you said, I mean, you break it down. I'm sure it's a step-by-step process. So the whole big picture comes together as you move through each step of these. I heard you say Hall of Fame. What is that? Can you tell me more about that?
It's kind of a crazy idea. It's something I actually did just for myself as I think as a 17-year-old kid in high school. And I was just trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to become? Like, what do I want to turn my life into? Got a whole life ahead of me. And I realized, I wanted to kind of figure out who I really most admired. So I kind of took a sheet of paper. I think I still have the typewritten piece of paper over there in my, foundational documents folder. And I wrote down a couple categories. So family and friends, people who were in that category of my life that I really admired. Also historical or political leaders, right? People from that category. Fictional characters. So I love the book Les Miserables. Two of my favorite characters there are Jean Valjean, of course, but also the bishop, who kind of sets him free and shows him what he can be. Another category would be maybe spiritual or religious leaders. And then there's you can make up other categories if you wanted. But I found that when I did that,
you
could actually
at 17.
Maybe.
This is amazing.
Like April says, I'm kind of a nut. I'm a little bit weird. I don't know.
No, it's awesome.
It's kind of crazy, but I still have that document. It was actually something I remember writing down. 2 or 3 of my friends, one who was my age, and 2 guys who were 2 years ahead of me, I just really admired. And they did some amazing things in high school. And so I said, I bet I could work toward and do those kind of things. And it's just been helpful to kind of raise your sights to see the people in life that you admire or want to become like. And then what I found is with this exercise, we kind of develop it a little bit more. Once you have those names in place, then you take a moment, just take maybe 20, 30 minutes and write down next to the names, what is it, maybe 2 or 3 things about each person you really admire? And what is it that stands out to you? When you've done that and you look over the whole thing in its entirety, you're going to realize you've articulated, you've written down clearly what your values are. What do you value? And then you can start building that architecture of the rest of your life around the things that you truly value and admire. So kind of crazy, but it definitely works. So
no, I love that because I think it brings concreteness to the values that you're saying before, that it seems kind of vague or hard to determine what our values are. But looking at it in a person,
right,
that's easier to become like that. If they have, if they're really honest, it's easy to see that. Or if they don't gossip, but things like that, you can actually work towards that.
Sometimes it's hard to be able to see the one person you want to be like, especially as times change, because I found that as I was looking for mentors, now that we have the online world and we've got, podcasts or summits online and, you can publish by yourself. I mean, there's so many different options available to us now. So I couldn't really see the exact person I wanted to become who had already gone through this path, because so much of it was uncharted territory, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that when I can look back at the past, people like Lucretia Mott, but then look at some people who maybe live right now, but maybe who aren't in the online industry, but I really admire this about them. Or people like my mother, who stayed home and raised 8 children and was an amazing woman. I love her so much, and I want to be like her in so many ways. But there's other different unique things that I'm interested in doing that she wasn't interested in doing. And so I need to be able to kind of gather my very favorite characteristics from a variety of people. And then I think it's fun because you get to see this image of who you want to then become through the rest of your life.
Right. So people listening today can actually do that very thing. Friends and family, historical characters or, whatever it might be, fictional characters, religious or spiritual leaders, any other categories you can think of. But maybe just take a moment today when you find that quiet time with your family, just take 5 or 10 or 15 minutes and start to identify who are these people that you admire. What is it or who is it you would like to become more like? And I promise you the results will be like, wow.
And that's a fun date night, too. Fun date night activity over dinner.
If you're weird, yes. It's a fun date night.
Fun. How did that help you in high school after you had put that out on paper?
Good question. So like I said, there were a couple of guys, one of them who did really well academically, was able to get some awards and scholarships. So I kind of pursued a similar course. There's just one of my friends, I actually describe him as inherently good, right? There are a lot of good people out there, but there are just certain people you meet who are just inherently, it's just built into their core, their nature. I'm not that way. I try to be good. I try to be a good person.
Eric's always like, how I could break into this bank?
No. That's just figuring out how to help people become more secure. Yes, I had an
His
accounting.
mind just always finds ways
I had
to
an
work
accounting
it out.
professor in college who was the same way, and he was
He's
a great
like, good thing I
consultant.
don't do any of these
But
things.
this guy in high school, I've known him since middle school, and he's just the nicest guy in the world. He would do anything for anybody just because he was good. And I just remember writing that down. I remember writing it to this day. It was something I wrote about him at 17, inherently good. And I just said I would like to become or build my nature more toward being someone who's inherently good. I don't know if I can get all the way there, but if I can make progress in that direction, April will tell you, I'm not inherently good. I'm working on it. But I just remember, and to this day,
It's in there, dear.
he's my age, and I just watch him still, and he's still that way. So it could be attributes and characteristics. It could be like life accomplishments and achievements and things that they did. There's just a number of people, and some were family members. I have a great-grandfather that I admire a great deal for certain reasons, and just others. Like I said, Jean
And this
Valjean.
can be funded with your kids, too.
Yeah, we actually had a chance to, a couple of years ago, take our family to a small production of Les Miserables and the musical, and it's my favorite musical of all time. And again, I can't sit through that thing. My children are like, I can't sit next to you because you're just a mess, right? I'm just like, there's certain parts that are just like hit my heartstrings because that's the kind of person I want to be, right? And so, I don't know, it just affects, I think it helps you see or feel the higher version of you that's possible and gives you that stirring, that desire to get there. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I remember as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, I know it might sound weird, at that age, but it was just like, okay, I want to try to be better. I want to try to grow a little bit. So anyway,
I could totally see what you're saying, though, where it helps you to move toward becoming like him in different situations, that you have the opportunity to choose to serve or not. And if you have that in the back of your mind, what you want to become, that'll help you make decisions in the future, I can see.
And I guess, I actually grabbed that kid and I said, hey, do you want to be roommates at college? So our freshman year, he had to put up with me as a roommate. So I got to work with him and live with him and maybe learn from him in a very close setting. So
they say, though, who we surround ourselves with is who we become like. Those 5 people closest to us.
Then I made a good choice there.
Sweet. And with April, 2 good choices.
Absolutely. Amen.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks for throwing that out there.
I love both of you guys. So tell us, what is another step that someone listening could start today to architect their life?
That's a great question. I think of all the different areas I mentioned earlier, maybe the next one that people listening to the conference could do is start to kind of build out their 50-year plan, right? I know it sounds crazy, and I built it into kind of an Excel-based template because I love Excel and work that way. But if you step out and you look at, okay, over the next 50 years of your life, what are some of the things that you may want to do or have happen or be your life experience at those 5-year, windows, 50 years out, 45 years out, and 40? It'll seem kind of like, oh, it's hard to do. But just imagine, right? Just write a few things that would define what your life looks like, the relationships that your extended family members, your children and grandchildren enjoy with each other and with you, and then start working your way back. Because honestly, when you do that, it starts giving you things to work toward, to shoot for. It changes how you live the day-to-day and month-to-month life that you have. So I would just say, start with that and then figure out, and actually, we'll talk a bit more about this maybe, but kind of the way this came into being is about 6, 7 years ago now. I think, yeah, it's been about 6 years. We were up at a family vacation, a little summer camp, and I remember we had the time away. Our kids were off in their little activity groups, and April and I were just walking around, and I realized, okay, I'm 35 years old, and I've told our kids I plan on kind of wrapping up life when I'm about 85. I figure I'll be old enough then. It'll be time to just call it good.
I'm pushing to 100.
She's going to be alone for probably a good 17, 18 years after I leave. But I'm just thinking 85, and that's good. And my kids are like, no, Dad, you can't go then. But I'm like, look, I'll take good care of my body. I'll be healthy and happy, and we'll have a great family. But at 85, I think I'll be done. And I'm just realizing that. I'm like, okay, I got 50 years to work with here. And so I'm thinking, I want to build out what this might look like, what the major milestones might be. So I created kind of this worksheet, or this Excel template, where it has 1 year for every year in those faraway years. And for the next 5 years, it has those years broken out for a line for each month. So you can kind of start thinking about, well, what types of activities, what types of projects, what types of vacation here or there. You start thinking bigger picture, and you can really get ahead of the game by realizing, okay, when our kids are about this age, we want them to take this type of have this type of an experience or take this type of a trip together. And I built the spreadsheet actually with 6 columns down the left side, a column for each one of us, the 6 family members, and it has what ages they'll be at those certain months. So you can kind of actually see the patterns when ages or what year in school they'll be. Whenever September rolls around, what year in school they'll be. So you can kind of see, okay, if we were going to move ever from one place to another, when would be the right time to do that? Or based on their ages, what could they do? Or certain milestones in life. When does someone turn 16, or when does someone, whatever it might be. And it was really kind of cool because a picture starts to emerge where you can see, okay, wait, if we wanted to do this type of a family vacation or create this type of a family experience, this summer or this summer would be the ones to do it. So you start moving the big rocks in.
Yeah, because you might have things that you'd love to do, but where you're at in life, it's just not going to happen. But if you can span it out the whole time, you could plan for that.
Right.
I had another idea. If you want to make it more visual, and for the moms out here, we could create 10 Pinterest boards, each board representing 5 years of our life. And then as you come up with ideas, you could pin them to the board where you want to actually do them. So, when I'm 60, I'm going to do this.
This type of stuff. And if it starts to accelerate, you're moving ahead.
You can move the boards.
You can move a couple things earlier. Yeah. But I think it's just, I think that's a great idea. Any type of structure that works for you, figure out how you envision that life ahead of you and look long, right? Don't just, what do they say? The days are long, but the years are short. Yep. Sometimes as a mom, I'm sure, some days, this day is never going to end. But then, our oldest right now is a junior in high school, and you start to realize this window of time when the family's around, the children are there, it moves really, really quickly in the big scheme of things. So I just think being able to look out and figure those milestones out, what types of experiences, what types of relationships, what type of life do you want to have at each of these kind of seasons? It's a powerful way to kind of start building the basic framework that then you can fill in the smaller pieces as you go along.
I think so often we over-plan our New Year goals. We have so much we want to cram in a year, but we under-plan the 5-year, the 10-year, the 15-year. So spreading it out like that makes actually what we want to accomplish a lot more doable than trying to cram everything you'd like to get done in 1 year.
Well, I kept thinking, if I don't do it right now, I'm never going to get to it.
Right.
If I don't just put it all into my life right at this moment. But I have to realize these last 10 years particularly have been the busiest years probably of my whole life. I mean, knock on wood.
I know what you're asking for, lady.
But I feel like, why am I expecting myself to do everything while I have such young children? I still want to be doing things that are going to help me get towards those goals and use my skills and use, talents. But I don't want to go crazy right now. I feel overwhelmed.
Well, I was reading a study a little while ago, and they said that they found that in America, I don't know if this is true of the world, but in America, they found that more people spend more time each year planning their vacation for that year than they do planning their life, right? Planning the bigger picture of what the life looks like, this architecture. They said, I think most people spend between about 20 to 30 hours in a given year planning their vacation. But I don't think anyone on this call spends that time,
maybe
30 hours.
An hour planning New Year's resolutions.
Things like that. It's just like we're running so fast on other things that maybe don't last quite as long and not giving quite as much time to the things that matter most.
Right. I think it's what's immediately in front of you. Stephen R. Covey talks about that with his quadrants of, we're just running around kind of putting up fires for what's immediately in front of us without planning for the long term because, I think so often we feel kind of frantic. We don't have a lot of time. We're getting from place to place or doing things. But by doing what you're saying, taking this time to set aside to really look at the bigger picture, it's going to allow us to feel a lot more joy in the present and know where we're moving in the future.
Right. Very well said.
So how do you suggest couples work together, especially when they're tired, overwhelmed, and not sure how to move forward? I think this is, we have, like we were talking about, we have so much coming at us.
Absolutely. And we're actually excited to talk about that because this is the place where we get to be totally human if we haven't been human enough yet. This is tricky. It's super hard. So Eric and I have been obviously working together as a couple for 18 years. But when it comes to actually working more intently and in a really focused way on your projects in your life, it is hard. And so we're going to share a few things that we've been doing that have been helpful. One is just having planning sessions regularly. So we have a planning session every Friday morning, and we're able to go through our calendar, but not just our calendar for the week. We actually do a bigger look at the calendar, looking at the year, looking at what's coming, looking at what we want to put into it.
We'll spend about 10 minutes kind of going through what needs to happen over the next 7 to 10
the
days.
Appointment
we'll go all the way through the next weekend. So we're always kind of 10 days ahead of things. But then we'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes really looking at the next 3 to 12 months.
And it's drove me crazy at first because he got out this big year-long calendar and he posted it on the wall. And so it's like February. And he goes, okay, now what would you like to be doing in October? And I'm thinking, what? I don't know what we're going to do in
Halloween.
October.
Let's do Halloween.
But it was actually really helpful. And I would always get frustrated when we would have to go out and talk about what's coming in 6 months, because I'm feeling like there's so much that needs me now. I don't have energy to think about what's happening in 6 months. But as we really started reaching out and actually planning vacations, oh, do you want to do a special getaway for our anniversary? Do you want to go to this conference that's coming up? Would you like our children? They have these opportunities. What do you think? And so we were able to actually make those decisions really carefully. And then we also just talk about how the children are doing, how our lives are going, what are the projects we're both excited about working on, how are things moving, and are we moving in the direction that we want to move for our lives. And I love that it's kind of weekly check-in where we get to come together and look at the vision we have for our lives and look at what we're doing this week and make sure they're in alignment.
And one recommendation on that weekly meeting, if you're doing a planning meeting together, make sure you're both coming into it in the right frame of mind. You're well rested. You have eaten. You're, whatever irritates.
You say, fine, get out the calendar. It's probably better
not the
to
right
take a nap.
time. Maybe reschedule that. Yeah, take a nap. You're well rested. You're fed.
Get some
The stress is
food.
out. It sounds silly, but I think all of us can understand that, right? We've had conversations with our spouse, with people in our family, and they just don't go well if you're not in the right frame of mind. So you come into that planning meeting kind of with the right perspective, the right approach.
So that's one part of it. Another thing we've been working on is we call it our decision-making matrix. This has actually been super helpful, where when a new type of a question comes up, whether it's, are we going to participate in this event, or are we going to go to this person's birthday, or are we going to take on this project, or are we going to make this purchase, and whatever it is, when there's big decisions that need to be made, a lot of times we postpone those decisions because it feels too overwhelming and it feels like I just don't have all the information. So what we do is we put together questions that will help us to isolate all the different facets of that decision. So if it's something like, do we want to make this purchase? It could be something like, is this going to benefit our family overall? Is this going to last for a long time? Is this the best way to spend the resources that we have right now for it? And we'll kind of go through and ask questions, rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, and then at the end we divide up the number of total number by the number of questions.
Add up your responses, divide by the number of things you asked.
Thank you, my counting maker.
Back on the train. Tell me that one more time.
I think I even have an example of one. Oh, I don't have the full completed one here. But, well, this was the one that was our, it was a draft. We built the more formal one. I think he's got it there. Oh, look at you go. Okay.
I just happen to have
Thanks, hon. Okay, so this is the decision-making matrix. So you can see you put down all your questions right here.
Okay.
And then there's a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh.
So if I'm asking questions like, is this the best way to use our funds right now? 10, it really is, right? Then I have it right there. Then what we do is at the end, let's say you had 5 questions, okay? And let's say you had 2 10s and 3 8s. You're going to add up the 3 8s, so it'll be 24 plus the 2 10s, total 44. You divide it by the 5 questions, right? So you're just going to total, find the average. If the average is 9 or 10, it's a yes. If the average is below a 9, then it's most likely going to be no. If you really have to go back and maybe add in some more questions because you really feel like there's a few more things to think about, great. But what I love about this is we started making this a regular part of our decision making. So now we don't need to feel like, oh, it's a big decision. We just think, okay, well, what are the facets of it? Let's rate it. Let's divide it up. And what do the numbers show? and that's actually been really helpful because it helps me feel calm and good about decisions. It helps make sure that we're both able to express maybe concerns we have. And if the decision we're making is something like, hey, am I going to go travel and do a training event somewhere? Okay, well, is this the best thing for our kids right now? Is Eric going to then be put under more stress than usual? And is that a good thing for him right now, And I think we were working on something that we were trying to make a big decision recently, and he put together a few questions. And then I added a question, does April want you to do it? And he was like, oh, okay, well, yes, that's a really important question. Does April want you to do it? And my answer was, not really. I don't really want you to do it. And so that way, we're able to factor that in. That's a big deal. I mean, at the end of the day, it was something he needed to decide to do. So I couldn't just, blatantly say, no, you're not going to do it. But it helped him to recognize, oh, okay, April's actually pretty concerned about this, and then we ended up not happening. But it wasn't because you had all 10s and I had a low number. It was because you were already kind of between the 8s and 9s, and I kind of brought it, down.
Well, the decision-making criteria, really, it's an extension of a couple concepts that Greg McKeown taught in a book that we love called Essentialism.
Yeah.
But we decided to kind of take it and formalize it into something that people could use regularly for the big decisions. Like, should I brush my hair on this side or this side?
Yeah.
That's not
You're
what's
not
in the
going to pull out the matrix for
But
everything.
you never know. Big hair move, you never know.
Our
What's your
family.
But I
dinner?
think
Let's
for the
pull out
bigger
the
things
matrix.
that maybe you're really wrestling with internally, or you and your spouse might be wrestling with, it's a great way to kind of identify what are the key criteria that you want to decide this on. And one of the points that Greg makes in his book, and we totally agree with it, is how many of us agree to and say yes to and sign up for a bunch of things that are 7s or 8s. Most of the stuff on our list are 7s or 8s. When you can get really clear about what you're trying to accomplish, how you're going to do it, where your time goes, you're going to realize focusing only in on the 9s or 10s, maybe to practice you get into 8, 9s, and 10s, and slowly wean yourself off of them. You're going to find, again, this purposefulness as opposed to being just busy, being run ragged, feeling overwhelmed. It starts to decrease because you're really allocating, and you find gracious, kind ways to say, I would really love to be able to help with that or to do that thing, but I'm not going to be able to. And you just find these ways to really focus on the things that are 9 or 10s that are most essential to you.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's the 7 or 8s that end up exhausting me and causing me to feel totally anxious and frustrated. When I get rid of all the 7 or 8s and edit those out of my life and I'm only doing 9s and 10s, I can handle that. And I think that this is just a really good way to do it. So decision-making matrix is part of it. Just a couple. Do you have anything to say
I
on
was
that?
just going to say, I love that. I love that book, The Essentialism. I think it's such a great book to kind of help us weed out, like you're saying, those things that are good things. It's not that they're not great things, but they're not the best things that we could be doing. And sometimes it's hard to say no to those things. But I think if we do them and resent doing them the whole time, it's not going to be good for us or a family, So I love that matrix. I'm excited to try that.
So that's kind of the two of the main things. And just a couple other quick things. We've really decided we needed to establish some rules of engagement and some boundaries. So I'm going to share two that we have. One is we have a code word. We actually stole from Devin and Melanie. We kind of use their code word. When we're done talking about business, let's say it's 11 o'clock at night and Eric says, April, I have an idea. And I say, artichoke. And that means
artichoke. Shut up. Stop
Don't
talking.
talk about it anymore.
Anything else with this. We'll talk tomorrow.
So that's a little code word. So I think you need to come up with little code words because you don't want to just scream at each other and be mad at each other, right? And another one we have.
You can look lovingly into their eyes and say, honey, artichoke.
Yeah.
And it's over. So
this is our other one. Okay, so this is our pineapple, and this is kind of silly, but so Eric and I work across from each other. This is my side of the desk we're on right now. He works across the desk from me.
Yeah, on your side of the desk.
It's super hard though because sometimes if he's focused on something and I'm interrupting him, and then he'll ask me for something.
That's not how it goes. She's an introvert. She's a focused worker. She prefers to have less contact.
No, but
and I'm an
sometimes I
extrovert.
bother you if I'm like, hey,
and
Eric.
so I'm like, hey, April. And it's
this
like,
is me and my husband.
Totally. And so we get so frustrated.
Nobody else listening has this problem, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do with your husband? Same thing?
So he sometimes works from home, and I'm the same way. I always have ideas, or I want to be talking to him, and he cannot.
All right, Desi, we can hang out. Because she doesn't want to hear my ideas
So here's what we do. We have this little pineapple that sits on our desk, and if you want to talk to the other person, you just lay it on its side. So then while you're working, you see the little pineapples laying there, and then you're like, if you're at a good point to stop, you stop right then. If you're not at a good point, you finish what you're doing, and then you say, yes, and you turn the pineapple up, and that's our little thing.
It kills me to wait for the pineapple to come back
Eric's
up.
like sitting there staring
I have
at
an
me.
idea. I want to talk to you.
Hang on.
I'm almost done. I'm focused. I'm in the zone.
Don't talk to me.
But I mean, it sounds funny. It is kind of ridiculous. But I think as we talk about these little things that, work for us in our family dynamics, our couple, our marital relationships, just figuring out a few basic things that will help you be able to, again, spend time, not get off track, not get unfocused, to move toward the architecture you built for your life. It makes a ton of sense. So.
It's something to laugh at, too.
It was so funny. It was very helpful.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing, Post-it notes. So I made Eric a prescription for me. Actually, I have one for myself and one for him. But so women get hormonal, and mothers are usually low on sleep and high on stress.
Oh,
and
I think I've read this. It's really good.
I have my stabilizing mechanism, and I have this. Whenever I'm acting crazy, I have to go look at my Post-it, and Eric will say,
If
April,
she's ever a little off, I'll just say, "Hey, April, maybe go check
go
your
look at your
Post-it."
Post-it.
And she has to figure out if there's any of these 8 things that she needs, like going out and rollerblading or getting some food or some rest
sleep,
or
sunshine, water. He's like, are you thirsty? Have you had anything to drink? So I go through this. So this is my little checklist.
Now, as a caveat, I did not make her make that. She made it and says, "These are the things I need every day. If I don't have these, help me get them." And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, so that's fine. But then I also wrote him a prescription.
Yeah, so she wrote me a little prescription on a Post-it note also.
You can hold it
And
up.
actually, I keep it. Do you want them to read it?
Twisted it. Do you want to read it?
I will read it backwards to them.
Yeah,
It says, is that good? All right, here we
I
go.
don't know.
It says, "Let me work when I am happy. When I am crazy, put me away for a nap."
Put me down for a nap.
Put me
Not
down
put me
for-
away.
Put me away. I'm reading it
Shove me in
backwards
the
to the
closet.
paper.
Put me down for a nap
Put me
and
down
give
for
me
a nap
Yogurtland.
and give me Yogurtland, a little frozen yogurt place here, and a bath, and a TV show or a movie I like, and maybe send me to get a massage, right? So the bottom part doesn't happen very often, but it's like when I'm crazy, do a couple of these things for me. Just help me, like get me back on track.
It's
And to be and totally fair, I think all of us, male and female, have these moments. And so when she sees I'm grumpy or I'm
I don't
irritable,
have a prescription for you.
I don't, but I think there's very basic things. Okay, make sure I've had enough food, make sure I've gotten some rest, make sure I've been loved. Okay, we're good. So I think it's just taking care of each other if you have that support there, but recognizing if your spouse or significant other is coming to you with something like that, it's because they love you and they want you to become your best self and they want to be able to say, okay, are we going to talk about something? Are we going to do something right now? How can I help you? So I think that's where it comes from.
And so oftentimes we blow by that. You might be so cranky and all you need is a 15-minute nap, or all you need is to go down and get yourself some food, or whatever it is. We blow by that and we can't understand why we're like frustrated or ornery or melting down. So it is helpful. I think that's good too, because my husband, he gets in work mode and he gets stressed out, but he forgets to do some of those things that take you out of that stress.
Give him a stabilizing mechanism Post-it. It'll work.
Well, the thing is, you're more productive if you do those things.
You are.
What is on your guys' personal life architecture?
Oh, good question. Very good question. I think the life architecture, it's that longer view. For us, I think it's what I love to kind of put in that 50-year plan. And it's really being able to look out and realize that this, I guess the framework I would start with is sometimes we lament about the things that have happened or haven't happened in our past, right? Oh, I wish we could have done this for our kids, right? April wishes we had a tree house in our backyard for our kids, and our current circumstances and setup just didn't run that way, right?
You and me both, April. I hear you.
We'll have it for the grandkids maybe, or maybe for our littlest one who's still 8 or 9. But I think we lament too much. We spend too much energy on what isn't and couldn't be and wasn't in the past. But I think it's important to realize, okay, we have the present and we obviously have the future to work with and plan for. And so it's realizing, okay, in today's moments, what do we do to make the most of today? But then my personal life architecture, like one of the things I was going to bring up, and the reason I'm setting it up all this way is, about 4 years ago, I realized when our children were a certain age, looking at their ages and what years in schools they would be, I wanted to try to figure out a way to save up for and plan for the chance to take our family of 6 on a trip to Israel and spend about 2 weeks there. Now, that's a big deal for us, right? It's expensive. It's going to take time. It'll actually involve taking them out of school based on the time of year that we want to do. Yeah, there's a lot of what goes into this. So it's not just something, hey, the Perrys are just going to take their family to Israel. Like, if and when we're able to do this in the next year or so, it will be because we've thought about it for about 6 to 7 years. We've been planning for it. We've been saving for it. The kids are getting excited for it. There's just some purposes. We're Christian. I want to be able to take our family to see a number of historical sites there, but also expose them to some of the world's great religions and kind of history there from a variety of different religious perspectives. So to be able to spend 2 weeks over there, that's something that's meant a lot to me. So I put that on 6 years ago. And it's been kind of cool because now we're getting to it. We've been building toward it, but we have maybe some of the funds set aside and saved. We've kind of made an itinerary, and we've been doing this for a couple of years now because it was on this architecture. A couple of the things that are out there is like, as our children start to leave home, we'll be empty nesters probably in the next 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so it's scary, but like April said, we're going to have so many years of our lives where the children aren't necessarily around, and we can do a lot of things.
I always pictured empty nesters being old, but I don't feel old.
We're not
Right.
So
You're like
we will have raised 4 children, but I think it's figuring out, okay, what do we want to do? We literally have, our first one goes off to college in 2 years, and then our last one will go off in 10 years. And you're right. I mean, you kind of put your hand in your heart there because you think it's going to be forever. Like I said, the days are long, but the years are short. And we want to make sure we put in as much as we can in this season of our life while they're still here. We can create these family experiences and memories and learning. But then we're looking out and saying, when they are gone, we want to be able to go on some humanitarian service trips or mission type things.
I have more books I want to write.
Right, and start outlining.
So many fun things we want to do to be able to be more helpful outside of our home. Because I feel like right now we're investing inside the home so much. But then once they're gone...
And you might have ideas of what that book would look like. And that the 50-year plan is a great place to say, okay, in 2022, I'd like to have completed this book. And then 2025, I want to have maybe this topical type book done. But it just gives you something to look toward or work toward and start organizing.
And not feel like you're heading towards a cliff. And then once your kids leave the house, you just fall off the cliff.
And I think it's important to be doing that now because I've talked to a lot of...
It's all centered, like you said in the beginning when you're talking about if everything's kid-centered and not family-centered, it could feel that way.
Well, we've actually talked to a lot of mothers over the years, mothers especially, but some fathers, and they realize that they may not be investing or keeping themselves kind of developing and growing during these years of child rearing and being a mother. So when they get to that point, they become empty nesters, they feel really disoriented. And my invitation is that everyone listening to this right now is start taking a little bit of time to figure out and remember who you are, what you're passionate about, and what you want to do and work toward, because you can be doing some of those things now in small and simple ways, and they can then grow as this kind of life stage evolves to become an empty nester at some point in the future. So, these are just those things. Higher education.
Everyone wants to go back to school.
I think it'd be fun to look at the possibility of not necessarily getting a PhD, but going through a similar type program or watching our children get their higher education, substantial projects like that. So it's these types of things that you look out and you realize, and I mean, in all honesty, I'm not even to the halfway point of our 85 years yet. I realize I'm still on the front half of this, journey. And I'm like, that's a lot of time left. So I'm excited about it.
How sweet will that trip be too? When you guys take that trip, that will be so sweet after 6 years of making that happen.
We're looking forward to it. We're hoping it'll all come together. So.
And I think the anticipation too is part of the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We told the kids, tell your teachers what's going to be coming or plan for it because there's AP tests. I mean, there's always
we have a daughter who's not real happy about the fact she's have to do a lot of workarounds to make that still be possible to take a few AP tests later that spring. So.
Yeah, but I feel like because we're trying to plan in advance.
Yeah, you'll never regret that time. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, a lot of us in life situations that we're in, we can't make things happen tomorrow. But in 6 years you could if you're slowly plugging away at it.
And again, it's that whole past versus present future view that, if something didn't happen last year that you wish could have, well, could it still happen maybe in a different way, right? I was talking to a gentleman not long ago, and he and his wife were about ready to retire. They actually just retired, and they were ready with this bucket list of things to do. And he's probably in his mid to late 60s. And then a couple of his children one had a financial issue that really came up. Another had a health issue, dealing with cancer. And I think he was really concerned for their well-being as well he should have been. But then he also said, well, I guess I'll just have to put off that bucket list until all this settles out. And I just gently said to him, as that whole kind of maybe thinking about it differently, take care of them, but is there a way you can still get to some of the bucket list items, maybe in a different way than you anticipated, but still get them started. Start doing something so there's fulfillment there and that growth and that achievement, and maybe involve those two children in that as well so they have that experience with you as they're going through some of these hardships. So I just think sometimes we're a little bit too fatalistic or, this door just closed, so I got to just walk a different direction. It's like, well, is there a way to get the door open? Or is there a way to maybe still get through it? And that's where April thinks I'm crazy. But I don't know. I think it's possible.
Well, and I love that you said, can you include them in it? Because I think it's so good for our kids to watch us do things, to cheer us on. It becomes a whole family thing.
That's a great, great point. And I think especially as there are mostly mothers watching this, what mother doesn't do a great service for her children, showing how she continues to invest in and develop herself in the midst of her motherhood? Because these children, no matter male or female, little boys and little girls, are going to grow up realizing we do lifelong development and education, and especially these daughters who might someday become mothers, realizing when they're mothers, I'm going to continue to develop myself and grow for my family. It just becomes kind of this chain. Again, it's part of that legacy. If you decide now, that's the type of influence you want to have on your daughters and granddaughters, deciding that we're going to invest in ourselves and develop ourselves. There's a story I love about a newlywed couple, and the wife makes a pot roast, and the two ends are cut off of the pot roast. And the husband's like, well, why'd you do that? It's like, I don't know, my mom did that. So they asked the mom at some, meal they had, and he said, oh yeah, she says, that's exactly what I've always done. My mom did that. So at a holiday gathering, he's talking to grandmother and saying, when they make pot roast, they cut the ends off of the pot roast. You know why they do that? And she just like looks at him in disbelief, and he said, the only reason that I ever cut the ends of the pot roast off is because back when we were first married, we had nothing. We had this very small pan. The pot roast wouldn't fit in it. So she cut the pot roast off, the ends off. And so for generations, right, this has been the legacy that unintentionally she had left. And so by the same token, I think if a woman, a mother on this call right now decides, okay, I'm going to start figuring out ways to develop and improve myself, showing your daughters and sons, and that becomes, rather than cutting the ends off a pot roast, that becomes one of the legacies that you pass down from generation to generation. So just a powerful way to kind of change the family dynamic.
I love that. April, you have such a fun project that you've been working on called the Butterfly Project. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so this is kind of the way that I've applied life architecture to my life. We're doing life architecture together, creating that as a family, but the image of a butterfly has been really important to me because a couple of years ago, I realized that I wasn't really happy with the projects I had on my plate, with the kinds of things I was doing, the way I was thinking about my life. I felt like I was just a caterpillar. So I felt like I wasn't able to do the things I felt like I was meant to do, and I wasn't living according to my bigger values. So Eric and I had this conversation, and as we were talking about this and discovering what are the changes we need to make, I really love this image of this butterfly and felt like, okay, I'm ready to become this. Now, I read the story, I'll just tell you briefly, but it was a story that was told by a woman named Trina Paulus, and it's about this caterpillar named Yellow who was trying to figure out what she should do with her life. So as she's wandering, she sees this other caterpillar who's caught in a cocoon, and she doesn't know what's going on and says, well, what are you doing? Yeah. And the other caterpillar says, well, I'm becoming a butterfly. And when she heard the word butterfly, her insides leapt, and she said, oh, what is a butterfly? And the cocoon caterpillar explained, it's what you're meant to become. And Yellow was intrigued and said, well, how can I believe there's a butterfly inside you or me when all I see is a fuzzy worm? And on further reflection, she pensively asked, how does one become a butterfly? And the answer was, you must want to fly so much that you are willing to give up being a caterpillar. And I love that story. And as I read it, and as I talked with Eric about it, I realized that it was time for me to make some changes and make some choices and start doing things the way a butterfly would do them. So what that entailed was that I had to start thinking outside that box, right? Outside the cocoon. We had to start actually thinking, okay, April, what is it you really want? What are the things you want to do? Who are the people that you want to be like? What do you want to create? And instead of thinking, I need to fit inside this mom box that I made for myself, I started setting goals that actually were really, really scary. They are really scary. I was telling Eric on a walk today, I feel like with all the things that we're doing and the things I'm excited about and working on, I feel like if a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is me doing things that scare me to death, I feel like I'm at an 8, every day.
You said 8 or 9.
I said 8 or 9 every day, and Eric said, I think it's an 8. He's trying to bring me down. Not bring me down that way, but help me not feel anxious. And so it's been a big couple of years for me, but I've started doing things that do scare me every day and thinking, okay, I'm done being this caterpillar. What is it that, when Yellow the caterpillar heard the word butterfly and her insides leapt, what is it that makes you leap? What is it that when you hear that idea, you think, oh, I want to do that. I want to create that. I want to go build that or become that. And by brainstorming and not thinking that I had to do what other people wanted me to do, but I could do what really mattered to me, it's been amazing. And so that's a lot of what you find at Learn, Do, Become now is Eric's like, April, as we're doing our planning session as a couple, he says, okay, April, what do you need to do this week to help you butterfly? That's my verb.
I think the phrase, there are a few words I love in that vein. It's like, to butterfly or to dance, right? What is it that makes you dance? I love the words thrive. We hear about the words don't just survive, but thrive. There's so many awesome words that rhyme with that, like alive, like become alive, to thrive, to drive forward.
You're very cute.
This might sound silly, but I think most people get into this mentality of I just have to survive, right? What do I need to do to survive?
Yeah.
And if we're caught in that mentality, you're literally going to be the caterpillar on that ground below the leaf cover, and you'll miss the opportunity to really climb the stalks, create the cocoon, and then come out and be
And
all that
it's
you're able to
hard.
be.
Eric actually bought me those butterflies that you can grow, and you can grow the caterpillars and set them for.
My
He bought
daughter
me
did
some
that
for my
with her
birthday.
preschool.
Do you have a? Oh my gosh! So when we were studying what happens when you go through a cocoon, when the caterpillar goes through the cocooning phase, it actually digests its whole body and it becomes a caterpillar soup, and then it reforms into the
Really?
butterfly. Yes, the whole thing digests. Like
That's
if
what's
you cut
happening
it
inside a
open,
cocoon,
it's
inside of a
liquid.
chrysalis. It's amazing. You can't see it, but that's what's happening inside of that caterpillar.
So it's been seriously a very painful year for me in a lot of ways. Stretching, reframing, like it's been super hard. But I feel like what's finally happening is I'm having the chance to butterfly, and then that way it's not just for you, it's that you get to then help other people and have your influence and your skills and abilities then help bless other people, which that's the whole point, right?
Right. Well, that's my point. Anyone who's watching this can do this. You don't need to be running an online community or doing some special
Right.
type of work. Whatever it is that you do, that you're passionate about, that you're involved in, you can do this at the butterfly level, right? You can architect the way you want it to look and feel. And that's what we hope the main takeaway from this kind of call, this kind of meeting is that as people watch this, they realize I can do this. I can see a few clear steps forward to really change how I look at what I do and what I want to do and get there in a better, more fulfilling way.
And the thing is, like you said, everyone's butterfly project, everyone's life architecture is going to look different. What they
Yep.
want to accomplish, what they want to create for their family and the life that they want to lead. And so I love that it's you lead that and kind of create. And I like the bigger picture too, because sometimes in the space that you're in, it might take longer to get to what you're wanting to accomplish, but you can over time create that life that you want to
Yeah.
live.
Absolutely.
So you two, where can we find more of you if people want to get started creating a life architecture? Where can they find your community?
Okay, so we put together a special link for Mom Conference. So it's learndobecome.com/MC for Mom Conference. We're going to have a couple things there. One is a special gift called Create Your Day. This is something that kind of brings together the productivity stuff that I like doing, planning your day, and the life architecture aspect of it, and that you don't just let your day happen to you, you actually create it. But it's not just about scheduling and getting tasks done, which is where we usually stop. It's actually how are we going to make our relationships better? How are we going to take care of all the facets of ourselves and our individual needs? And how are we going to become better at the end of the day than we were at the beginning? So when we have an audio that goes with it and template for you, so you can go through and actually start creating your day and change the way you approach your days. Because even if you have young children who are getting up in the middle of the night, or you've got stress, or you've got a lot of 3 jobs you're working, or whatever it is that's going on in your life, you can always create at least something that's going to help you in those little moments that are in between your appointments and tasks and things like that. And then we'll also have information on how you can learn about our Steps to Everyday Productivity program. So this is something that Eric and I have created together. I've been teaching a lot about organizing for moms for the past 8 or 9 years. And this is a way that we can work together as couples, where Eric and I talk about how you balance that butterfly part of yourself, maybe your professional development or your external goals and projects, with your strong family, because you need to have both. And as I've been now building a business and growing and creating projects and writing books and things like that, and as my children are getting older, I'm learning that that balance gets super tricky, but I'm figuring out what I failed at, what's been really hard, and now what's working. And so in the STEP program, we're going to show you and actually bring you into my life and Eric's life, and we talk about how do we actually do it. So the decision-making matrix is in there, how we plan as a couple, more information. So if you're thinking, this would be helpful to learn from people who are going through it right now, who have already gone through and done a lot wrong, you can come in the program.
And a lot right. I have to add a lot right too.
So learndobecome.com/MC.
It's so wonderful. We have loved having you guys on, and we'll put that link
Thanks,
like she said
Jesse.
underneath so they can find you and get more information.
Thanks so much.
Jazzy. Have a great day.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much for coming on. I love what you taught today.